Start recording. So yeah, so this is what we'll end up with at the end of today. I wanted to go to walk animation and stuff like that. They didn't get a chance, so we'll have to probably hold off till next week for that. But we'll see how far we get. Say again, sir? Is it?
Yeah, St. Patrick's Day.
It's Paddy's Day, like I'm not making you come on
Paddy's Day is the Saturday, I think.
So it's a double night. He said he's gonna have to be
yeah, because I definitely need you guys to have this one. What we can do is I might do a Twitch class. When are you guys free? Tuesdays? Are you completely free on Tuesdays?
No lecture on Tuesdays.
Okay, if I do a Twitch class on Tuesday, is that okay? Yeah? Let me check with the whole class in Discord. I'll probably do a Twitch class on Tuesday then. Yeah. No, wait, can I? Maybe I can. Because I have another class.
Oh, okay.
Will we be open on Monday?
I can't do it here. I have another class. I'd have to do it like Tuesday afternoon. Yeah. Someone trying to knock on the door? Do you know the code? Who's that? Someone sent him the code. There we go.
Buried in Discord somewhere.
Alright, so just before we begin, just a little bit about animation and why we use animation. We are going to be using animation purely as feedback, okay? So animation is not just to make things look good. We're trying to use it to tell the player stuff as well. So if you see this one, see the little blob that shoots out stuff? Just before it shoots, it squishes. And then just before it just as it's like preparing to shoot, it squashes, and then it kind of stretches as it's firing out the bullets. So over time, a player will be able to look at this and go, oh, okay, I know when it's going to fire because it's doing this little animation for you. Skyward Sword does this thing where it even like swaps hands depending on which direction it's attacking you from if you've played Skyward Sword. So the animation is basically like a signal. And then we have stuff like hurt frames. Anyone play fighter games? You all know what hurt frames are, right? And dash frames and stuff like that. So literally, like when you get hurt, you do like a little kind of thing. It tells you you're hurt, but also it makes you invincible. A lot of games make you invincible for a little while. And that animation frame is to tell both the player and the attacking player, this person is invincible for a little while. You've done damage, but they're invincible for a little while.
A lot of balancing for
oh yeah,
like that. So like
completely. Completely, it's a completely a balancing issue, which is why animation is a lot more important than sometimes people realize. Like, look at this GIF. You can see a bunch of stuff going on. So one is every time that player attacks, there's a huge swipe. It's really obvious when you attack. You're telling the player really obviously that you've done an attack. When the attack hits, that's like a little distance. It does a little spark thing, and the whole character flashes red as well. These are all forms of animation, and they're all there specifically so the player knows exactly what's going on. If you have none of these, it gets really confusing really fast. All right. The most important thing you need to remember when we do animation is to have weight. We're trying to create a sense of weight. We're trying to pretend as if there's like gravity in this world, even though we don't really have gravity. We've got rigid bodies and stuff, but they're like simulated gravity. So this animation, good or bad? Bad. Bad. So harsh. I have no idea who did this animation. Poor fella's been all my lecturers for the last like 2 years. What? No, they gotta get it. Who's that?
Sure.
Do you know the code?
We did Discord.
Did you check it? Sure, you check it. You will, like, this is how you remember. Okay, what's wrong with this animation then? If you think it's bad, it's easy to say something's bad, but we don't. What is it? Okay, so like, let's ignore the clipping issues and the rigging issues. They are issues, but let's ignore those for now. Let's just focus only on the animation because it's completely rigging issues there, definitely. So again, it's easy to say unnatural, it's easy to say the bad, and like that's correct. You are right, but we need to figure out how not to do it like them, right? So what have they done wrong?
It's not serious.
Yeah, so that's one thing. There's a little snap jump. So the first frame is not the same as the last frame. If you want to have a looping animation, the first frame should always be the same as the last. So that's number one. Anything else?
Lean forward very far.
Leaning forward very far, not necessarily bad depending on the animation, but in this case, yeah. But also the lean forward is like stop. Upper body doesn't move at all. Lower body doesn't move at all. And the head doesn't move at all. Just the whole thing moves up and down, just bobs up and down, but they don't like bend. They don't have any animation on them. The arm animation, like we're in 2D, we're animating in 2D today. So our animation is in one axis only, so we don't need to worry about it. But this is a 3D animation, and it's like only moving in that one axis. Nobody walks like that, right? Like just straight up only one axis. So you need to have like a rotation as well. And you see the hand, it's like locked.
Pointing out as well.
It's pointing out and locked, so it's like really weird looking. Like even if it was straight down, it would at least look like a march or something. But having it pointed out and not moving at all is really weird. So that's why I said to you guys, and I hope you guys have all done this, for your animation, have a body and like have elbows and knees. Did you all do that? Right? Because that's the only way we kind of get like this leg squash and the arm kind of like bend if we have elbows and knees. So this is actually an example of a really good animation. So the root of the animation is down at the bottom where the rocket is, right? And you see that like his butt is where the rocket is, and it moves in sync with the rocket because it's like connected. But every other part is offset a little bit. It doesn't go exactly with the rocket. So the rocket moves and then the upper body kind of slowly follows behind. And this is called an offset. And I'll show you how to do that today as well. It's quite simple. And then like this kind of feeling of weight includes like wind-ups. See this one, that's like a huge kind of wind-up before it punches. Again, you don't need to have that. You can just go, you don't even need to do anything. You can just apply the code. But that wind-up makes it feel a lot heavier than it is because you're pretending that this thing is really heavy and it's winding up and like following through as well. Cool. And the other thing I asked some of you to do, and I said do this if you can, is to have other little parts that could be secondary animations. So the main animation is just a run cycle. So like say the center or the this one is idling, that one's running, and the last one is also walking. So that's a main animation, just a walking, right? But then they all have secondary animations. So the middle dude has the hair moving and the little tie flopping here and there. This one's got like a little bandana thing and the little pipes going up there and lights going on and off. They're not related at all to the main animation. They just follow, kind of offset a little bit from the main animation, which kind of serves to make the main animation stronger. The final one is just like a little dog on top. And straight, all the little dogs doing just bopping its head up and down, just based on the weight of the animation. That's all it's doing, but it really helps to make it look like really bouncy and juicy and stuff. And speaking of that bouncy and juicy stuff, I don't know if you guys watch Rick and Morty or you've seen this stuff that he's made. So like this is based on old school games, like the pixel art that he's making, and the animations of the characters are really bouncy. If you watch the full video, I think there's. Can I click this? That play? That play? Cool. You see them like bouncing loads, and when they run, they're like, poof, poof, poof. They're really high up. They're almost like the top head is almost down here, but they're almost like really bouncing up and down. And that is an aesthetic, but the aesthetic was driven by necessity because if your character is this small, it really needs to bounce up and down for you to be able to see it. So it's an aesthetic that came about because we had to be able to visualize the movement. So that's something we're going to try and do as well to make it really obvious, like on screen. So ignore that. And we'll also be doing now. We didn't get to do a walk cycle today with group A, B, group B. I wasn't able to get there. I don't think we'll be able to get there as well. Maybe we will. Maybe we won't. But a walk cycle anyway. This is the old school animation walk cycle. So this is literally frame by frame. Every single frame was drawn out. That's the old school way. We don't have to do this. But why I want you to look at it from here is there's this sine wave thing. See that? The head moving up and down. And the head at the top point is exactly the same as, they're just different legs. They're left leg or right leg, and they're exactly the same height. And at the bottom, they're exactly the same height. If you don't do it exactly the same height, you get a lip. You get like, where it looks like they're kind of down a bit more on one than the other. So if you have the same height, then it's like up, down, and it looks like they're walking. We don't have this many frames Oh wait, let me just go through this. So for example, this one looks like that, but we'll be walking in place. You guys know that already because you've done an animation, haven't you? The frame by frame one? Yeah. So you'll be walking in place and we'll be moving it using code. We are also going to be using the knowledge that we have from the old school pixel art. So that's a full animation walk cycle, right? It's like 9 frames there. Whereas they managed to do it with 4. But obviously it's way more jumpy. It's way less smooth and fluid. So these are like 3 to 4 frames. So what they did is they cut out most of the, like, not say unnecessary, but the keyframes that are not super important. So for example here, yeah, they basically got rid of like almost all the frames and kept the most important ones. And these are like the bare minimum keyframes you need to make it look like it's animating. And why is that useful to us? Because in Unity, the way we're doing animation, we're not doing frame by frame. We're doing something called keyframes. So literally, if I put a keyframe here and a keyframe there, Unity will be able to rotate between them for me, okay, automatically. So why this is useful is if I know that these are my keyframes, the most important frames, so I can set like one animation there, and then the next frame I'll set it like down. Unity will do the in-between ones for me, so it'll look like I'm smoothly transitioning between 2, but really I've only done those 2 frames. It looks like I've done loads, but I've only done those 2. Does that make sense to everyone? Yeah? Okay. So, we're going to set that up, but first we obviously need to go to Unity and set everything up. Let me see if that's recording. I'm still recording. So I have this all set up already, but I'm going to delete it. So I'll start all over again for you peeps. But you see what I have here. I have everything childed to each other. I have the sprite brought in. It's all separated into little pieces. Don't worry, I will do all of this step by step. I just wanted to show you where we end up with. So the sprite is separated up into all these little pieces. And in the editor, they're all little tiny pieces like this. And they have names. I've given them names. And most importantly, you see the pivot point? You can move that in the sprite editor. That's the pivot point I've set them to. Now, where is the pivot point? For example, for the head, where does your head rotate around? In the neck area. So that's why the pivot point's down there in the neck area. So I need to sort that out that way. And we'll go over all setting all that up. After I set them all up, I had them all childed to each other. So for example, this is my head. If I rotate my head, you see the beard comes with it, and the mustache and the eyebrows, and all of them come with it. And that's because they're all childed. If I click on the head, you see the mustache is childed to it. The upper beard is childed to the head, but the lower beard is childed to the upper beard. Because if I move the upper beard, I want the lower beard to come with it. Okay? So they're all set up in that way. I will go over all of this again. So essentially this is where we need to get to. We need to set all of this up. Okay? The main part is the waist. So if I move the waist, everything moves with it. And then I have a chest as well. So if you don't have a waist and chest, you just have a chest. And that's fine. So I'm going to delete all of this, which is painful, but what else? And re-import everything. So the first thing you want to do is import your sprite. I'll give you a bit of time to do that. Open up Unity, import your sprite. Make sure it's a PNG, and make sure it's all separated out. Because Unity will draw a square around each sprite area. So remember from last week, Unity will grab a little square around this fella and a little square around them, so they need to be separated away from each other. So first thing you want to do, import the sprite, and if you have a 3D project like I do, it may not recognize it as a sprite. So I just need to tell it, hey, this is a sprite. If you are on a 2D project, it should be fine. It should always know it's a sprite already. Sprite mode. What is my sprite mode? Multiple. So I've got loads of sprites in here. So I'm going to set that to multiple. The pixels per unit is whatever pixels that you have. So mine's 128 by 128, but I don't know what yours is. Doesn't matter, but I'm setting mine to 128 by 128. And then you can open the sprite editor. So you can do a slice, an automatic, and slice, and it should slice all the way around your pieces. Slice, automatic.
It's slice. The button is up and down a little bit. Or I think so, like this one, this way I wish I had you know, if you have turned it up. You didn't separate all the pieces?
No, they just like we have
So, why is there so many people I know there's okay, so my arm. Your arm, yeah, I did it upper arm. I think so. Yeah, like when it moves, you didn't see the.
Okay, I see a lot of people using my character. You probably want to have yours set up for next week.
This is recorded, so you'll be able to do this again. You probably want to have yours set. Is it multiple mode? Texture type default. It needs to be sprite.
Now, if you're at this stage where you slice it like I have, there's a couple things you can do here. One is on each single piece, move the pivot point to where you think it should be. So this is my chest, so it should, like, you know, when you bend at the waist. And you can rename it here as well to make it easy for yourself later. The other thing you can do is if, for example, see this arm bit that I have? Unity has accidentally grabbed too much of the other part of the sprite. I can just resize it using the blue one, ideally. And I'll resize it there. So upper arm near. Where is your body? Do you have a waist?
Or do you just have the bottom? Yeah, probably just have it at the bottom of it. Yeah. Yeah. Where it's bent over. If you have a waist, that's it. The waist just is in the center.
Waist in the center?
Yeah, just click on the center because you can rotate the waist around. Yeah, that one. Yeah. Because that'll be connected to the waist. That should be the bottom.
So do spend some time here sorting out your weights and everything. Sorry, not your weights, your pivot points and your names. It'll make your job easier. Cool. Someone, when you finish, hit apply, and then you can close that. And then when you open up your sprite, you should see all the pieces all individually laid out like so. Someone asked me this morning as well, what happens if you make a mistake with your sprite and you want to redo it? So the way Unity works is it references the sprite. So this sprite exists here. If I right click on the sprite and show an explorer, it shows me the explorer. There it is there. So it's looking at this PNG here. Now if I edit that PNG, it will update in Unity. So let me just open this with Photoshop, for example. Open with Photoshop. So there's that PNG there. Now if I go in and edit, like I put a little blue dot here, and you can see that in Unity. It's that little blue dot here. So if I edit that and save it, so let me just get rid of that blue dot. So it's completely black now, yeah? Save that. In Unity, it automatically updates. So there you go, it's gone now. Alright, so it references that sprite. So if I edit that sprite, it will change in Unity as well. Cool. Yeah? I'd say so. Any questions before I move on a little bit? Alright. So the next part, when you guys have done that, you should have all your stuff sliced out. If you haven't, that's fine. The next thing you need to do is basically start assembling your character. So here's the waist, and I'm going to assemble the chest on top of it, and then the arm and stuff. By default, if it looks really blurry like this, you may have to turn the filter mode to point. So basically that just changes the filtering, so it doesn't look so blurry. And we're basically trying to build our character. Don't worry about childing and stuff for now, just try and get it in the right positions. Actually no, do start childing. So my head can go child to my chest can go child to my waist. Upper arm can go here, child to the chest. If you're confused about which parts should be childed to where, just kind of think about it. If I move the parents, what part should move with it? That's the hand, that's the arm.
Yeah, so I need to
Show you can copy them in Unity.
And yeah, if you need to duplicate a part, for example, I only have 1 foot, that's fine. If I have that 1 foot, Control D will duplicate. And make sure you name them something different. So like foot near, foot far, or right foot, left foot. Don't care how you do it. Yes.
All the pinpoints set.
Are you using pivot up here? Make sure it's pivot.
Make sure the pivot is using pivot instead of center. Center is the default. You have to put that up. Is that right? Yeah.
It's fuzzy. You probably want to change it to no filter on sprite. So you may run into a problem like I have. See with my arm, I want this to be behind the body, but it's not. Do you remember how to do that? Order and layer. Okay. The other thing I'm probably going to do as well is make a sorting layer called player, just for my player. So just add a sorting layer called player. And we need to flip. There's an actual flip button right here. Flip X. Yeah. Sure. Give me a sec.
My waist is the main.
Waist is my main, yeah.
Yeah, just until.
Chest inside that. And everything else and to chest and to like the legs will go to waist. And when you finish, just try and rotate some parts. Make sure they are in front of and behind all the things that you need them to be. Make sure they're not clipping through and being weird. So the mirrors will set up and stuff?
As in, like, with the color?
Yeah, like when you rotate the arm, it's all correct, like it doesn't fit to it. Or you don't know the arm see with the center. Yeah. So, cool. So you go. If your pivot point is not working, if you set pivot points and they're not doing it correct, it may be because up here where it says center or pivot, you probably need to set it so it says pivot. So it uses the pivot point of whatever object. No, it's not. You can go negative. You can start with 0 and you can go positive in front or negative to go push back. The easiest way is start with your weight so your chest is 0 and then do positive for everything in front. And then if you rotate the feathers up and down. I don't know how you can do it. Because the legs are this way, so they're saying. You don't have to excuse yourself to me. Alright, so about like 5 minutes, move on.
Yeah. I didn't know what else to go on. I just started blowing the face. This is fine. I was like, I know I can do it.
No, it's not.
What's it?
No, it's actually right now.
That's the same thing.
No, because it was definitely before it was brand new.
No, maybe the left one. I didn't even register that it was for this. I thought it was just like, see, it's like a dry sheet picture. With the logo.
Yeah, man, he's a little bit. They've ordered a little bit.
T-shirt with it.
It looks bad.
No.
Oh my. I was like, why is that?
Did that come from the? Is the voice coming from?
No, it's not mine. No, it's not.
Because I watched back the other one for the last two stuff, and then I was like, I was wondering whether I kind of.
You a shout out there if I use that.
Because then you don't.
Yeah.
There was one where I vaguely heard myself in the background.
Can you hear yourself in the background?
A tiny
Very
bit.
vague. Yeah.
Look, I was kind of listening now for friends. Because you said something, and I was like, I remember saying that in class.
Oh, I got a meeting.
Just one sort of mic and shit.
I just hope you hadn't recorded that time that I went
That channel, yeah. The playlist where. Yeah, that was
probably.
They just ain't Garrel.
It's just punchy.
They just PUBG shit.
There's two PUBG ones, and then one was watch this, and then there's some college stuff as well.
College
Just
stuff?
didn't fucking up in
What are you doing in college stuff?
Like programs.
7 subscribers.
His value.
Might be more sure. It's a little problematic.
No, it is not you. My top 5 cigars is 2017. Oh, you've got 11 subscribers. So you Fortnite.
No, that's not me either.
Fortnite.
I'd be probably very far down, I'd say, to find it.
Yeah, there's a lot of Fortnite stuff. There's a lot of Shane Carroll as well. What's your other?
I think it's just the default Gmail.
Ubuntu Drupal project.
If you type in Shane Carroll, Snappy Carroll, because I did like a report for creative practice.
Yeah, I'm subscribed.
Yeah. I'm making my way in the world.
Yeah, I keep thinking Let's Play. Burger Hunt. Is that Let's Play?
Yeah, cool. Somewhat, mainly these.
But just don't look for consistency in upload.
Oh man, my channel is all that stuff, so I'm not a YouTuber.
All right, are we ready to go? Who's not?
The first thumbnail's fine. The second one, you put a motorbike out when I'm yeah. Because it's a driving tutorial. I'm using my Photoshop skills that I learned from Bass.
Who's having problems? What's up? Let me know if you have issues.
I have issues.
Tim, you should have just put them in.
Especially the legs. I have no idea.
Yeah, that's fine. That's exactly
Your voice is so quiet.
That's it.
Yeah, they are. Yeah. I was thinking of because you can go into the.
funny because Raj doesn't
I had to lower his voice and raise mine, and he was still that loud.
Shane, I'm telling you right now, you need to put your microphone this close to your face.
Alright. I've started just boosting the audio when I'm changing.
Is yours right there?
Yeah,
I just have to do
like rhinestone.
Yeah, that's perfect. Show me when you were
The best Superman punch I've ever got. It's the only one I've ever landed.
And the, oh, you haven't traveled with him?
Ryan's
Yes,
head.
he's got it. He's well, so when I rotate the upper arm, what should go in?
You should have one.
I didn't keep in my revenge kills.
When you take the lower half, when you rotate the lower
I
half.
just wanted to end it on.
Samurai?
Or dead with it. It's like force fire generators.
The
No,
whole-
I
whole-
haven't. It's actually so much. Yeah, it's so terrible. I had to make it and stop playing. I was like, why do it? Yeah, it's so good practice. You say like fixing shit. The worst ones that my player because you usually get sent with you and stuff. Like wires you down and you turn around and you see him. It's like, oh no.
Well,
Oh, look at the crazy one
if
now.
you,
They have.
if you rotate the upper arm,
Yeah, so I think it's a big fast person, and then they put a head thing on you if you don't like diffuse
if you rotate that,
It's actually so cool. I get scared too easily. Oh, it's so cool. I actually tortured myself to play the first chapter of Dead Space, and I didn't record it properly.
Oh, my God, just on Twitch stream me playing Alien Isolation. I'm like, no, there's easier ways to slow your chair.
Yeah. That is terrifying. I was enjoying that game, and then I got as far as the xenomorph, and I was like, alright, I'm done.
Yeah, I'm out. I've seen this anymore. Bye.
Yeah.
I enjoyed looking at this shit.
I was enjoying just walking around.
Suspense power.
First, I got the fucking Sins, and I got they were bad. Then I got the xenomorph.
Yeah,
you just
So Jason,
the body, upper body should be
You moved the legs.
You need to bring the upper body a little more. What? What the fuck would I want to do?
Immediately
50 views.
garbage.
I'll get 0.0001
Let that roll
like, I think the highest one I have is like 30k views. I can't monetize it because it's Sorry. Sad.
Use your valve when start with the
No. We're making VR games. If anyone can crack VR, it's
development. 3 VR.
Unknown, completely unknown.
Everyone. So it's just gonna be like another like 40.
Yeah, probably will. Some stupid.
Realistically, they're gonna get a board with 30 credits and they're gonna really have like this.
You think they're doing 403? You what?
We got a discount on
No.
He tried it.
I can say it after.
There's no left for that. There's no. There'll be a new one. Well, it goes straight to 4.
What happened in the third one?
And it's just been like.
Alright, I'm gonna have to move on then.
It's like halfway 4 and to start off, you know what happens to the previous character. Like, what was the point?
Okay, so we've done this part where it's all the separate pieces. We've put them all together. Now the next part is we're gonna ignore this one. We're not gonna do that. But all the pieces, these are all the sprite pieces that we made. They're gonna be childed to an empty game object, and this empty game object will have an animator component on it. You all know the animator component, right? The animator holds all the animations that will be used to call animations for the characters. So like you can see it on the screen back there. If I look at the animator, this was the light bulb one. This is the animator controller, and it holds the light bulb off animation and the light bulb on animation, and it tells the sprites when to play the animations. And we're doing exactly the same thing for this. We're gonna have a empty game object with an animator that tells all the sprites below it what position to be in and what rotation to have. Okay. Later on, we'll add another empty game object, and this will be the player. And this is often how games do it. So the player itself is completely empty. It's just a game object that's empty that has a collider on it, so you control like where it collides and stuff. Your physics is on it. Your scripts are on it. All the interactions are on this empty thing. And below is just a thing that like purely is there for visuals. It just is there to animate when you're walking and stop walking when you stop walking. It's purely like a visual thing, okay? So there's often this weird disconnect that people don't really get, but there is an actual player that is, it could be completely invisible, it could be empty, doesn't matter, it still works. And then you have a thing that looks like a player that when a player is playing it, they're like, oh, that's me, but it's not. It's actually an empty game object that this thing is challenged to. Does that kind of make sense? Yeah? All right, so we're going to build that part now. That's really easy, very simple. So when I have all my pieces set up like this, so just my waist, oh, made a big mistake. Have I made a mistake? Yeah, my legs are not childed to my waist. Cool, so then my waist, awesome. When I move my waist, everything should move with it. When I do my chest and rotate it, also be very careful not to rotate like this. Don't do that, okay? Only rotate in the Z direction. So this rotates fine, so the whole upper body rotates with it, and the head, let's see, the head rotates, all the beard parts rotate with it, all grand, arm does its stuff. Like you should be checking this already. I've already checked it, but just to show you. And the upper arm works like that, that's fine. Lower arm is here. Cool, so like it's all good. I've set it up, I've tested it, that's grand. So all I need to do now is I need to create an empty, and this will be called the animator. Animator? Animator. And onto this, I'll add an animator component. So all this empty game object does, its only job is to hold the animator component. That's its only job. The animator component needs a controller to work. The controller is what contains all the animations. And you can just create one by right-clicking anywhere in the assets folder. Create animator controller. So I'll call that Torb controller. And just dump that into where the animator is asking for it. Cool. So that animator is ready. And now I just need to child everything to the animator. Because the animator will be able to animate anything from itself downwards. From itself and any of its children. You can animate all of those. So I need to child all the sprites to the animator. And don't do, I saw some people doing a reset component here. Like resetting it. Don't do that because it seems to screw up. just click on the waist and just set the waist position to 0, 0, 0. So the animator and the waist are exactly on top of each other. Okay? It might be your torso or whatever it is, but basically the main part of your body are exactly on top of each other. Cool? The reason why that's important is if I'm not childed, and here's my animator. Let me just add a sprite to it. Can I do that? Can I just do that? Yeah, okay, cool. No, I can't. This ball represents my animator. So let's say this is not childed properly, right? That means if I in script move around the animator and then I kind of flip it. Why can't I flip it? Oh, scale -1. The childs snap all the way to the other side. You see that? Like they're kind of offset. So if I flip the animator, they kind of offset all the way across. So they have to be on top of each other. And that won't happen if I go to the waist and set that 0, 0, 0. Now when I flip the animator, they just flip in space. So it's fine. So they need to be exactly on top of each other for me to be able to do that. Cool? Bye bye ball. So the waist is childed to the animator, set to 0, 0, 0. The animator has an animator component that has a controller assigned to it. Cool? Alright, get that done. And then we can move on to our first animation. I'll give you like 5 minutes to do that. Shouldn't take that long. Essentially, all you need to do is make an empty game object, give it an animator component, and child the sprites to it. Is the formula press 0, 0, 0? Oh, for your tuning games? Yeah. Sounds good, a little different than that. I'll also just took that out.
So I didn't make one control for my animation. So I actually so we only come there when we go to our versions, and we go into the same control.
Yeah.
And then the two of us just completely
You solved that problem, actually.
Yeah, we put it on the laptop and the laptop is going to work.
Yeah, it's like your brain, your .NET framework.
So the camera around the .NET framework and
I have no idea, because that's what the error
I
was
saw it
saying.
on the PC.
Oh, did we start PC?
No, even after our reset after the song went on the laptop, we downloaded it, ran it on this, and then put it back on the PC and it was
So you make it so it's just rather than.
Did you set the
Like, you know, setting.
Yeah, there.
Oh, all these.
The body. Everything's shot to the body, right? That should be it. We're directly on top of it.
Do we just create the animator controller, or do we
Create the empty and create the animated controller. So the animated controller by default now, the one that we created will have nothing in it. It will have no animations. It's completely empty. It just has entry and exit. It has no animations.
They're not.
Do you have the animator?
I don't know why it's so different.
That's an empty, but that's an
They're not connected.
Maybe just
Upper legs, they're not connected to the body at all.
Alright, I do see that.
right click anywhere in the app.
So there's a problem.
Assets, that's the hierarchy. And create animated controller. Right. Everyone good? I'm gonna move on in like a
Oh my
minute.
god, actually looks like he's starting this in man.
Speak now, forever hold your peace. Anyone good? Everyone good? Anybody have an issue? Nobody has an issue?
At least you don't think it's hard.
Anyone?
Oh, sorry, thank you.
Anyone have an
It's
issue?
just like the way these are going. That
No?
shit looks like
Okay.
on the side.
Just keep going.
I know.
Yeah, but call just call the header. So you have an empty and you try to empty to the rest. You bring the same exact thing as you do. Might as well not just create the animated controller. The assets folder. Right click in the assets folder.
Cool, can I move on? Okay, so the same as before, when we animated the torches and stuff, it's exactly the same way we do it, except now instead of animating sprite sheets, we're animating positions of sprites. So instead of changing the sprite, as we did before, where we just like swapped in the sprites and they change sprites, we'll be animating position. So clicking the animator, window, animation, boom. And it says to begin animating animator, create an animation clip. Actually, I'm just going to call this Torb animator so it's a bit less confusing. So to begin animating, window, animation, create an animation clip. So I'm going to create. And I'm going to do an idle first because that's the easiest one. Just going to do idle. Yes, I will replace. And what I can do is, with this turned on, this will turn on recording. So, boop, I am now recording. See, everything turns red. And when it's recording, what I can do is move and rotate and scale stuff, and it'll create a keyframe. Remember we were talking about keyframes? So points, and Unity will try and move between keyframes. So let me just show you very simply an example. So if I move along this, see it says 1 second here because I'm on 60 samples, so I'm at 60 FPS. So 60 frames is 1 second. So I'm going to move like halfway through, which is about 30 seconds. To move the white line, you just click up here. So about 30 seconds. So I'm going to do an animation where he's just doing that. Just that. Really easy. Just this. So that's like an idle. It's just like, you know, doing this kind of idle animation. So for first thing I need to do is make the waist go down. Because when he's moving down, he's bumping up and down, right? So I'll grab the waist and just move it down. And you'll see it's added 2 keyframes. It automatically added one where I have the timeline. And it makes one at the start because it knows that it started here, and it automatically creates one there. So now if I scrub between them, you see it going up and down like that. So that works, and I can also click on this one, Control C, go all the way to the end, Control V, and now it goes up and down between them. All right, so you can see it animating already. So instead of animating the sprites themselves, we're animating the position and rotation keyframes. Cool. Right, so I've done one of them. I've just done the waist. And you always do that. You always start with the basic movement first and then start adding more detail. So I'm doing the waist. Let's go back to the center. So let me make the chest rotate forwards as well. Let's make the head rotate forwards. If I want to change the starting position, I'll just go back up to the start. And let me change it so he isn't doing something weird like that here. Let's make the starting position something like that. And make it so he relaxes his arm. And why not, I'll open the claws as well while I'm at it. And you see why the secondary animation now becomes important, because there are all these little extra animations that I can do that because I have those joints. If I don't have those joints, I can't do them. Cool, so that's animating. Move a bit more. And the far upper gun and the rivet gun. Okay, so do I have the upper body pretty okay? Yeah, cool. So the upper body's moving. I'm going to make the beard move as well. It's gonna rotate forwards. Oops. And now notice one thing, the whole time I'm never ever animating the actual animator section. Never ever animate that. I only have keyframes from waist downwards. So only the sprites have keyframes. Cool, that's animating. And the final thing I need to do is the feet. Like, it's weird because the body's moving forwards but the feet aren't squashing. Like I should, as I squash, you see my knees are bending. And again, this is why I need my bended knees. I need to have knees so I can do that. So I need to have the knees bending as well. So go up here. Let's bend those knees forwards. And bend the feet backwards. Alright, so now it looks like he's sliding forwards a little bit. You can see that? Because the legs are pushing forwards. So I'll just move the waist backwards to compensate. So now it should look like a little bit off still. Stop a bit here. Cool, so it looks like he's staying in place. Alright, and this is why the animator has to be completely separate, because we're moving all these pieces. So if I press play, that's grand. Oh. So once I'm done, it needs to go back to the original frame. So to do that, if I click on this diamond that's in the dark gray area, that selects everything below it. So if I click on that, Control C, bring the timeline over here, Control V, and it should just, cool, animate. Let me just move the exhausts as well, because the exhausts are not moving. Let's just rotate them a little bit forwards. And paste. And play. And that animates through. So it's a little fast. It looks like it's a little like way too bouncy for me. I want it a bit smoother. That's fine. Stop playing. If I scroll out and to select stuff, you click in the blank area. You create a little box like this. So I can click and drag. That selects everything. And you get these two little lines. And you can just hold these lines and drag them out to extend them. And they automatically like extend the space in between them. So if I press play now, much smoother, much better. I might tweak his beard and stuff and move his mustache because the mustache isn't moving either. But that's more or less okay for what I want. Cool? Is that okay for everyone? Alright, so try and get an idle there. Done. And I'll show you another little thing after. Yes. Is everything a child of what, sorry?
The waist.
In mine, yes.
Did you move the waist at all?
Yes. So what I did was I made the waist go down.
But like, if I told you that everything else was with it.
Yeah, because it's all childhood. But so I moved everything down. If you watch the video again, you'll see it. But the waist moves everything down, but then I move the legs up to compensate. And then I move all the rest of the body. So it looks like it's staying in place, but it's actually not. Make sure you have recording turned on before you make animation changes as well.
Seems to be a short frame. Have you copied the first frame? Just copy and paste it over. You are not listening. There's a reason why I have them in 3 separate files. I will offset them later. Running audio for first video. Yeah. Does that work better? Did you copy the email? Maybe I copy the copies to wherever the white line is. You might have accidentally copied it onto.
On top of two or
Yeah, yeah.
Just start stuff.
So we're gonna get.
So you just can make
You duplicate after the animated. For the same name. Yeah, you won't do anything else. So just get rid of that.
So this happened a few times as well. If you duplicate, remember I said when you duplicate it, give it a different name, because Unity might get confused and it will not understand which one you're trying to animate. If you have two things in the same name.
Nice.
The old has been on animation at the moment. And then but you can also do the class like this one, you can change the spikes. Alright. Okay, so at that point, let's dive in to spikes. Because I can see the left side. Yeah. It's just immediately covering this and then that. But that one's prolonged. Oh, you can copy them. You can still copy first.
No. I copied and then by after I pasted.
Oh, can you undo?
That's tough. There is no animation.
Oh, you should be able to probably.
He's not mad.
I feel like I need that move right now for the display. I'm going with the face.
This is one. I see what the fix with the thousand.
I think I can find it. And mentioned offset line. Do you just make it animate just slightly different in
Oh, so offset. Sorry, I don't know.
So, just well, I know you guys are still animating, but I'll just show you a little offset thing. So my animation works at the moment. It's fine. Like it starts in one pose, goes to one pose, and goes back. It's fine. It works, and it looks like an idol. That's fine. But it's not completely realistic because in real life, when I'm bobbing down, like my body moves first, and then my arms slowly follow. There's a little bit of an offset in my arms. So in order to do that, the easiest way is straight up because I've already animated it. It's already animated. All I need to do is basically find where are my arms. Here are my arms here. I'll just grab these. Is that all of them? And the claw. Just grab them and just move them. Just offset them. So now you see the way the body moves in, and then the arms are a little bit slower. They're a little bit offset, which is why I did it this method first. I did like all the first frame, middle frame, and last frame because once those are done, I can just offset them very easily. It's much easier than trying to like do them at different points, and it's a lot more tough that way. And I can move this one there, so the head will rotate a bit slower, and then the beards can rotate. Let's make the beard rotate faster. Put them here. Cool, much better. So everything moves a little bit offset from each other. Okay, so it's very simple to offset once you have it set up correctly initially.
With the first and the last always have to be the same.
The first and last always have to be the same because that's how it loops.
All good? Yeah, so yeah. Oh, you can zoom out a little bit, so it's long as like This looks like he's just flopping that way. So the most common thing with the idle is that the whole body pops out. In terms of the arms, you can probably do a thing like this, where they rotate back and then come up. So it looks like he's squishing up in there and the legs as well. It's fine, the hair is probably just a bit too rotating a bit too much. That's fine. You probably just need to squash the legs off a bit more because it looks like the legs. Yar. It's weird. I was in beta. I don't. Huh? Is it beta? It's open beta this weekend. It's kind of. It's an overnight lead to Assassin's Creed right now. Yeah, but it's not. It's not good. Wow. Well, I only played it like 2 or 3 games, but you don't know what's happening. You start it, you're just sort of. Yeah, people are running around, and you're just like, okay, that's cool. And then they all go off board, and then you're just there, and then you found a chest, but I fucked up with the ship, so trying to run over the ship. In other words, that's all I can see. I was just screwing around with other people, and it's like, haha, I'm throwing you in this country. So, in other words, you don't have friends. What pays €70? I mean, they should, but that is not a €70 game. At least not for what I can see. For me, yeah, I don't know, it just doesn't seem like the same. It just looks like you're just going around. Yeah, no, this had quests, so you could like go to a thing and like, oh, find the chest or whatever. I want to just go and find the chest. Yeah, you want to do shit. This is fine with data, and if it's that confusing to have more data, it's kind of big. It does, like when you launch it and you look at it, you figure out it seems like a game that's only worth €30, not 70. It seems like an indie game. If this was an indie game, I'd be like, oh, fair, it's actually pretty cool. Huh?
No, it's rare.
Yeah, rare. Microsoft offered this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's too random.
I said that's exactly what you said. She's like, I said, oh, she's not in a week, and it's like sounds the same as I never said that. I never said that. I said that. The thing sounds like you. You can buy the same.
Oh, let's see. You heard it cool?
Oh, they're using old memes.
And it's not even if they use the old meme well.
It's like Snoop Dogg. Or not Snoop Dogg, it's existing.
Do they come up to you and like sit backwards in the chair and be like, hey kids?
Like, you can't sit back.
Shrug it off those figures. Huh? That's actually what's it called? Oh, that's so cringe. Yeah, but only Brad's people.
Well, they just rotate two people out.
I've been in classes like that.
Oh, have you seen it?
Hey, broskies.
Have you seen you guys
No. No, I haven't seen that. Probably.
Okay, it is half 12. I didn't get to do walk cycles with Group B, but I'll do it with you guys because you're a little bit further ahead. And I'll tell them to watch videos and stuff. But to create a new animation, y'all remember how to do that, right? How do I do it? Yeah, boy. All right, and then I'll do walk. I should call this star walk, to be honest. Oh, sorry. That's great, bro. Give me a high five.
Oh my god, is he really having a high five?
No.
Oh, no. It was like the best moment of my life. Oh.
Okay, so for the first, I'll just do this. You can start trying. I don't think you'll be able to finish because it is a bit hard. A walk cycle is a bit hard. So once again, animation. I'm going to set up my first frame first. And if we go back to the PowerPoint, which I'll put up later, you see the 4 frames thing? So it's like where they're just about to hit the ground, when they do hit the ground, and then it's the other leg just about to hit the ground. That's basically what we're trying to do, and I'll show you that now. So I'll do it like where it's just about to hit the ground. So the waist is there, chest is there. Let me just do the arms are out. So if my left arm is back, which foot should be forward? Right foot, yeah? So always the opposite foot. So that one's there. Bend it a little bit so it doesn't look so stupid. Bend it there. And like so. So that's the first frame. Beard, upper far, upper arm, far. Cool, first frame. And I'll go to the middle. I'll do it 1 second because I can always stretch it again like I showed you before. And I'll just swap them. So this arm goes backwards. Oh. And this arm goes forwards. Cool. Move up a little bit. And then this leg goes forwards. And this leg goes backwards. Okay, so it's going to look really stupid. Which is fine. It's going to look really dumb right now. If I copy this to the end, it's just going to do this. Which looks dumb as hell. But it's fine. What?
It's realistic.
It's
Kind of.
it's terrible, but that's okay. It's again, we want to start with the basics, and the basic movement is straight up just the arms and legs swinging back and forth. Complete basic movement. That's fine. So let me just pause that. Cool. So it goes here, it goes there. Now the thing that gives it a realistic move, what makes it look realistic, is what we were saying, weight. So in between, I'm going to hit the weight. So right now, if I have this kind of like frame like this, right? The next thing that I'll do is I'll hit the ground. What happens when I hit the ground? My knee bends, my body goes forward, everything pushes forward. I have that weight. So I'll do that here. So right here, boom, about there. Somewhere in between. I'll push the waist down a little bit. Rotate the chest forwards. Rotate the head forwards. And then the legs are the most important thing. So let's see. So this is the trailing leg here. This is the trailing leg, right? So when you walk, when you hit, this one hits the ground, that leg lifts up. So it doesn't drag on the ground. It lifts up, right? And then this leg crushes, or like kind of bends in between. So let me do that here. So the near foot lifts up, kind of pulls back a bit. So you see that? It kind of lifts up and then moves forwards. And you can see it already looks a lot better, that near leg. And let me try the far leg, should crush underneath it, squash or whatever. So kind of squish it up here and squish the foot like that. Squish and it should go up. So now you see it doesn't go back up because I didn't copy the waist position from here. I just need to copy that to the middle. Boop. So it goes up, and the chest rotation as well. So I'm missing a few frames because I added them, but I didn't copy them over. So now you see that, boop, and it goes back up. And that's a lot more realistic just by adding that little weight frame in the middle. But you start off with the stupid frames, and then you add the weight frames in the middle. Let me do that, and let me just do the last one. Let me just copy everything to the back. So press play, that should, cool, it's got one bounce, just doesn't have the last bounce here. So in this one, same thing, I can copy the waist position from there, copy the chest rotation, because they're exactly the same. Goes forwards and then goes forwards again. It's exactly the same, so I can just copy them. But I can't copy the arms and legs because in this frame, the left arm is behind and moving forwards, but in this frame, the left arm's in front and moving backwards. So I can't just copy them. So I'll need to grab the legs and do them independently. So this time it's the near leg that's crushing. Yeah, the near leg is crushing. So squish up, squish foot, and the far leg is lifting behind. Boop. Oh, why is the near leg doing that? Upper leg, foot near rotation, copy, paste. Cool, there we go. Cool. And if I press play, it's not too bad. I'll need to tweak it a bit, like the beard isn't moving and the exhaust parts aren't moving. I'll have to do all of those bits. But in terms of a basic walk cycle, it works. And after I get all those frames correct, I only have 5 frames there. After I get them correct, then I begin offsetting the arms and stuff so they're not, exactly in sync. So the same kind of concept. Is that okay? Alright. So if you guys want to start on that, or you can start that at home. I'm just going to complete this animation now. I'll just try and make it all good. Are you still sore about that?
Yes. I was so hyped for the high five, man. You understand? Took that away from me.
You just have to be there when does actually was a high five.
I know. I'm just gonna lie and wait. Like that time I made him laugh.
When did you make me laugh?
Just
Yeah. Remember you were giving out about Sean's family and said, what's their number? And I said 7.
That's pretty funny.
He gave me a credit bar later on for it.
Cool. So for next week's Twitch class, I'll give you a bunch of other animations you need to do, but the idle and the walk are basically the most difficult ones. The other ones are pretty simple. But like fall, jump, you guys have done on the fall and jump and all that stuff already, haven't you? Didn't you do the leg tree for fall and stuff like that? Did you?
Yeah. What about swim?
Is the guard gonna swim?
Probably not.
Yeah. Well, if it swims, then it will swim a little.
I don't know how it would not have to be like horizontal instead of vertical.
Yeah, but I probably animated. No, actually, good question.
Do you animate 2 animations? So one, like 3, you have to walk and try to people walk in order, and then
Depends if it just jumps in.
yeah, it's just like walk.
Yeah.
But I mean, like, they put in animate.
Probably.
Like,
It doesn't matter. Yeah, it's a lot.
Actually, this reminds me of Pokemon decided to go from just normal flash fights to like animate them.
Yeah.
Shane, you could just always do a Minecraft bubble.
Yeah.
That's like 500 and something. So it's more like times 3, 4 animations. They have like 3 or 4 of them.
But it does make a difference.
It does make a difference.
You'll also, if you are super awesome and think this is way too easy, you can also do multiple idols. So we can also look at randomizing idols. So you'll see that a lot in games, but they don't just do the same idol.
Like
if you
Sonic
leave
or
it,
like Papa's Boat.
yeah, if you leave it for a long time.
It's having a banner at the time of the day.
Yeah. Like animation can get super complicated. I don't know how to call that. I'm gonna do basic ones for now. So if you're okay with that, we can leave it there for today.
It's just.
It's just Fortnite, you know.
Shane, you're torturing the storm.
Yeah,
You gotta go back.